Guys, Chaos back again. So today I'm bringing you guys another video. Sorry I haven't actually posted an update in a while. It's already been almost nearly a month of ROS release. But today I'm actually bringing you a video from Torment 6, and this has kind of been the goal of mine from a very long time ago. So let me go ahead and roll through the gear. Now, just FYI, this build right now could survive T6 on a pretty decent level. I wouldn't say comfortable. You know, plenty of deaths still to be had. The only reason why I'm showing you this is because I can actually do T6 for the most part. So basically, with that said, what I chose to run today is not going to be a full rift. It'll just be way too long. It'll take way too long to actually do. I'm gonna go to keeps depth, and let's go do this bounty here. And then after the bounty, of course, I'm gonna explain the build. Keeps depth is still littered with very easy mobs that I can kill at a very quick pace, so it's a nice show of the build. But at the same time, you know, they still do enough damage here that it's a cause for concern if you're playing at any other tier level. And skull cleavers do a ton of damage, so that's like one of those things you gotta watch out for here, is not to get sink hit by those guys when you're kiting around and stuff. So Ripper elites also do a lot of damage. You gotta watch out for Fallens, a lot of things to watch out for here. Really active area. Legendary. Yeah, I really don't consider this build to be fast, and I'm not showing it right once again to be fast. I just want to show you that T6 is doable. That's my goal. I don't see any potential of actually making this DPS high enough to be fast. The way that I see Barbs right now is everything funnels into the Earthquake set, as that is by far the most damage that you can output by any given means. You need Lutz socks as well with it. At that point, you've reached the end game, and it's the only way to farm T6 with it right now, is because your damage and skills, there's just no other skill right now to compare to it. Hammer the Ancients, I've literally like wrung this thing dry. There's no other way to squeeze more damage out. I mean, I could, you know, get a couple of pieces still, incremental increases, but as far as like big chunks of damage, no. I think 40 mil crits are about max without Insanity, without Ruthless. And that's about as much as you can squeeze out of Hammer the Ancients, and that kind of damage just doesn't cut it in T6. T6 is all about getting the most overpowered sets, running the flavor of the month. Now, there are ways to survive T6 though, which I'm not showing you guys, and you guys notice I'm not running with a Templar, or any followers for that matter, because I want it to be as close to multiplayer representation as possible, and I don't want the extra regen and health benefits of the Templar to, you know, give me a misconception of what T6 feels like. So I run without the guy, and this ups the difficulty of T6 quite a bit. It's a stupid decision, but that's the way that I chose to play, and I'm sticking to it. What I was going to bring up though is that you can actually use the Unity cheese with the Templar, or any other follower that has the relic that allows them to not die, as they stop taking damage altogether. And when they stop taking damage, it gives you a perma 50% damage debuff on mobs. So that actually helps a ton for survival, which is no longer, or no way possible otherwise. So that's a pretty cheesy way to build mitigation, and that funnels people into playing single player over multiplayer. I don't like that one bit. So I am protesting the use of a Templar from playing without him. Once again, that's a personal choice, and I do die a lot when I'm running harder content. So, you know, not trying to be elitist. I just don't like things that are that powerful that it funnels you into it. You know, there's no other way around it. My EHP, my toughness, my healing, it's pretty well balanced to achieve this kind of result here that you're seeing. And the Unity cheese makes it literally like trivial. Guy has Vortex too. So with these mobs, you have to be really careful to really charge out the last second. The reason for it is because they can always pull you back with Vortex. And you're immune to Vortex when you're charging. So the moment that you trigger charge and you're running away from them, it triggers the AI to actually do Vortex. So you have to be really careful when you charge out of a frozen pack. As that, especially with Vortex, because that allows you basically to go away scot-free. As you can see, skeletons have very little HP, and it takes me so many hits just to kill them. So, you know, if I was to run a rift, you guys will all be bored to death before I even finish. So the smart thing to do here is just save a couple of these guys here so I can actually kill them while I'm killing the boss here, because that'll keep my rampage stack up. So that way I can get more decent crits, but I'm running out of fury because single target fury is still really hard to supplement for. So I lost my rampage stack anyways. So that's a bounty, and let's go back to town and talk about what we have to work with.
I am returning to town.
Nope, not yet. This guy decided that town portal kills what his thing is, so put an end to that. Okay, that took a little bit of a long time, you know, just for that alone. So basically, you know, we talked about items. Let's go back to it. Items, this weapon here is probably known to some of you, not known to some of you. Devastator is a craftable item. I found the plan for it, and the material that you need to farm is really, really rare. There's only 2 mobs in the entire game that let you actually farm it. Luckily though, both of which are actually farmable via bounties. There's actually another one. If you play story mode, is always guaranteed there, but you got to do a lot of work. So the mob that drops the shattered core, which lets you make the Devastator, is the sand dwellers, which are like those big hulking stone golem guys in Act 2. When you're picking up, I think either Sultan Kul's blood or something like that in the cavern, this guy pops up, and you know, that's one surefire way to get him. If not, Rock Gut and Thurum are the 2 bounties in Act 2 in the archives that you can actually gain the shock core from. Pretty annoying to farm for, but I've done quite a few farms. I ended up with this guy here. I'm not satisfied yet. I'm going to keep rolling until I get a better roll still. But the nice thing about this is, of course, there's another legendary out there that you don't have to craft for, which is the Axe of Sandkiss. And Axe has 1.3 attacks per second versus the Mace, which has 1.2. So this will give you a higher damage range, but a lower attack speed, in which it will give you a better return on your Fury. So I actually prefer the Devastator over the Axe of Sandkiss, but I would like to have both and actually dual wield them. My other weapon, being the Sunkeeper, is probably the other BIS weapon right now for most builds, because of the fact of the elite damage scaling. They're no longer multiplicative, they're additive. So having the elite damage on this weapon actually makes up a lot of time for kills on elites. So I would highly recommend Sunkeeper and or Axe of Sandkiss depending on your situation. You might even like swapping. Not a huge fan of that, but you can. For elite fights, put in the Sunkeeper. For anything else, put in the Sandkiss. Ring of Grandeur, I finally got my crit chance on this guy. Took like maybe 30 plus rolls, so I'm extremely excited now that I am sitting about like 70+% on crit chance with the full globe. And it also ups my base crit chance to about 36.9, so about 37. So yeah, nothing much to say about this. This is a necessity to finish a lot of sets. Ideal rolls on these guys is of course socket and strength. Of course it comes with the innate damage abilities. So we'll leave it at that. Ideal rolls for Ring of Grandeur. I personally like to have crit hit damage on here. If crit hit damage is even on here, I might even be able to lose strength, because the strength might not make up for the crit hit damage applied. So it really depends. I mean, honestly, there's multiple ways to go about this, but you will want either crowd control reduction and or health glow bonus though as a secondary, and without those the ring is relatively lackluster, so having that on there is going to be huge. So I would recommend at least aiming for the secondary before the primaries. The primaries on this ring, really, because you're stuck with attack speed and life on hit, two really bad choices for the build already. Life on hit is almost always the choice to re-roll, so you're stuck with attack speed, whatever else, and then the secondary is really what to aim for. I got a new Mage Fist from last time. I got a 7E version. The fire damage could be higher. Ideal rolls on Fist, in my opinion, anything that rolls 750 stats max, always try to aim for double stats with bifecta, crit hit damage, crit hit chance. Some people would like to have reduced cost reduction and or cooldown reduction on your gloves, which is nice, but 750 main stat is 1.5 roll on anything else that doesn't roll 750 like these guys, which is 500. So in my opinion, it's best to go double stats, bifecta, and on a Mage Fist, because you get the fire damage for free, this is the best way to roll it. Now shoulders, this is a part of the All Kills set. All Kills, in my opinion, is one of the best craftable sets in the game, if not the best. The damage reduction is supplement so much, it's amazing. As you can see, I ran without the Templar and actually could survive T6 content. And then you have the elite damage reduction and then also the elite damage bonus, because it's additive now, just like the Sunkeeper. Really big bonus. One of my favorite sets in my entire build at the moment. The way that you want to roll shoulders, you want to do double main, so strength and vit. You want to do all resist, and you have a choice of either percent life, cost reduction, or resource cost reduction. Depending on your EHP levels, I have to right now go with life. Ideally, you want cooldown reduction, because cooldown would allow you to have stomp back more often. Stomp would generate fury along with crowd control, 100% mitigation when they're stunned. So, having more stuns is good. And then you also have Immortal Kings. The IK set is ideal. Right now I only go with the 3-piece set. I'm not a fan of Call of the Ancients. They still die too much on T6. There's some maps where they're absolutely useless, where the damage incoming, they just don't mitigate anything worth a while. So I go with the IK helm, but only with the two actual items with the Ring of Grandeur to make a 3-piece set. This is the only level 70 version of the IK of anything that I've found so far. I found 2 helms. The other one was atrocious. This is the one that I kept. And the way that you want to roll helms too is that you have a tough decision to make. I usually like the socket for the cooldown reduction, because cooldown is really big in the end game. I gave up crit chance for Hammer the Ancient's damage. There's just no way the crit chance makes up for the damage, so I gave that up. And because Helms could roll 750, I don't mind having strength, vit, and damage. If I had to lose vit for the crit hit chance, I'd say maybe only to that, because 750 fit is a lot. And I'm okay and comfortable with Hammer the Ancients to lose 6% crit here. 6% crit would be nice, but it's not ideal. It's not necessary. 74% to 80%, it's very minimal advantage there. So in my opinion, this is pretty near ideal roll for Helm. So I would go with these rolls here: double stat because it's 750, skill damage, and a socket. If I had to give up anything, I'd give up the socket for the crit hit chance if I, basically didn't value CDR, but CDR is really good. My Cinder Coat, still the one and only that I've ever seen. From PTR to now, I've put in maybe well over 200 hours already in ROS. So basically with this guy here, you basically want everything the same, except for you want maybe, if you didn't roll secondary for the resistance, I would roll resistance with strength on the chest for primary, and then go with health globe for the secondary. But having physical resistance is, like I said, one of the better rolls. I've explained this in another video. So aim for similar rolls on a Cinder Coat if you have a choice. Obviously, who does? But if you do, this is one way to roll your Cinder Coat. Belts are pretty basic. There's a couple of ways to do belts, like mighty belts in general. You could roll life per fury spent, and that's a good option. Life percentage is also a good option, depending once again on your life levels, but this is still a level 60 belt, so there's room for improvement here, but mostly in the HP department. And if I could get the HP levels to where I could maybe bypass at 50% here, and I should just go ahead and get costs or cooldown reduction still. Now this is the other set that I've completed. This is going to be the Captain set. This used to be one of the most expensive sets to make in the game, really hard to farm for the mat. The mat that you actually need is going to be the Twin Seas, which I don't think I have one right now because I actually crafted the belt earlier. So the Twin Seas you can only get from the alligator type mobs, and the alligator type mobs you can only find on bounties. A surefire way is by Razor Mouth in Act 2. So if you see that bounty, it's definitely worth getting every time, or at least doing, even if you're not doing Act 2 in general. The Captain set bonus is really good. You're getting 2,000 life regen, which I value a lot of, and right now my life per second is at 10k idle, 18k, 18.5k buffed. That's a lot of mitigation of damage, believe it or not. And on top of that, you get cooldown reduction and resource reduction and 50 resistance. And this guy here actually is almost as good as the Ashira set, in which I do have as an alternate. The Ashiras give you a lot more life, so you can actually sacrifice vit to make up for the vit that you get here, or the 20% life that you get here. But the way that this rolled right now, these roll really good for pants. Just like my Shiras, what you want is double main, you want resist, and then you want 2 sockets. There's no other way to roll these pants. Pants are always going to roll this way. You want nothing but that. Secondaries, there's no great secondaries that you can get on pants, so it doesn't really matter. Life after kill, I guess, is nice, but honestly it doesn't really matter. And in the boots, you definitely want you actually want the same thing, because they cannot roll trifecta, bifecta, or anything like that. So you get strength, vit, resist, and also skill damage. And this is the best way to roll these, except for boots though. They are tricky because on the secondary you can't get health globe. You can get them on here, you can get them on shoulders and chest, so rings as well, and amulets. So without having it roll here is actually a big downside to this. I'm still re-rolling the boots and the shoulders to try to get the perfect rolls, but very minimal, I would say, upgrades in those aspects. And amulet, I could get a legendary amulet here, of course, with increased rolls to increase damage and stuff like that, like 20% fire skills instead of 14. But the rolls are literally about as ideal as you will want them. And because I'm building EHP in all other slots, I can actually forego Vit and go with all strength here and actually get a very top-notch DPS amulet. But the one big thing though is that amulet is the only piece in the gear set that can roll everything that you want, meaning that all 6 rolls can be specifically and perfectly rolled. Secondaries, you want to aim for health globe and control reduction. So right now I got 5 out of 6 rolls that are perfect on this particular amulet. Really hard to replace even with the legendary. I don't have any other control reduction on any other pieces. Right now the amulet's the only one that I have, and it's up to 28%. This is one surefire way to not get killed by jailer, frozen, or anything like that. So highly recommend at least getting one big piece of gear with it. On rares you can roll up to 30%. On legendaries you can roll up to 50% on control, crowd control reduction. So it's really big to get that on at least one piece, and this is the piece for me right now, and it's actually pretty well rolled. The Og Hill search, this guy here is what completes my Og Hill set for me right now. Bracers, you want to roll exactly the way that you see it here. Fire skills damage, you want one main, don't want both, because this is not a 750 roll possibility. You can only get max of 500. Whenever you get a max of 500, give it one main stat for all resist, because all resist rolls 100 in every single piece of gear. So getting the all resist here will give you more mitigation with minimal sacrifice on main stat. And then of course I roll for a crit hit chance. I think armor was the other roll that was on here. So I re-roll the armor for crit hit chances. Armor is not a big deal. Secondaries, you can actually get reduction damage here, so range reduction, melee reduction, which is really nice if you can get them. You can roll actually both of those. Those would be ideal rolls, but you cannot get health globe. So I mean, the secondary, the damage reduction is really good. On top of the set bonus, you're getting 14%, but I don't think they're additive. I think they're multiplicative. My SOJs you guys have seen for many times over now, so this completes and well rounds my gear set. The hammer cost reduction is a really big reason why this is here. I would like to try to work this build with the new SOJ, but I mean, honestly speaking, it's a good enough ring. I mean, I don't gain too much damage from the new SOJ versus this one. It's decent amount, but not great. So that is the gist of the items, and I know you know, the items is what really makes the build nowadays, and that's the way I'm gonna leave it. Now skills, I'm gonna try to not be as long-winded here because the skills haven't really changed much. I do just want to maybe talk about wrenching smash though. Wrenching smash is a really good skill to tie everything in at the moment. When things are stunned, it's 100% mitigation. You guys seen in the video how well it works. It pulls things in, it controls things, it allows you to safely hammer away, and of course when you could hammer without moving around, it gives you the maximum EDPS. So ground stomp basically is a 2 skill in one, which it replaced the ancient spear that I used to run with, and also it stuns at the same time because it actually works on elites again. Now the way that it works on elites is a little finicky. It's distance immunity that elites have built up for anything that pulls them. For the maximum range of 24 yards right now, elites actually get sucked in. The blue ones will get sucked in at halfway point. So anything halfway, like 12 yards and out, they will actually get pulled in. Yellows, they're on the very tip. I think they're like in the 23, 24 yard ranges where they can get taken in. So it's really finicky how you take yellows in, but at least it works. So having that option allows you to group and cluster blue mobs and yellow mobs with their minions together and actually finish them off really quickly to produce more bloodshed procs. This is actually a better skill than Avalanche too, because it generates fury without using a passive, which allows you to put one extra passive in. If you find yourself surviving and having an issue, put an Inspiring Presence for even more regen, and you find yourself being able to tank a lot more. So basically with that said, you know, that's really the only skill change in the entire setup here. Everything else you guys already heard me talk about, so I'm not going to go into it. And right now for Paragon points, you really can't do T6 without Paragon points, guys. I'm sorry, but you do have to work to get into T6. And it should be well respected for anybody running T6 without any kind of like major cheese, because they really earned it. It's not easy to get into T6 right now, guys. So whenever you have 400, you get 2 full categories, and the 2 most important is movement speed and then maximum fury. Don't get movement speed on gear, guys, if you can. It's the weakest effects that you can roll. So 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, because there's no cap here, so just keep going on that. Offense, cooldown reduction is really huge. Cooldown allows you to control things, allows you to generate more fury, allows you to charge more often, get out of situations more often. So I choose this 1, 2, 3, and 4. Attack speed, I can actually gain attack speed and not really worry too much nowadays. But as you can see on a single target, I'm already running out of fury still. So I would say attack speed, you only use this if you plan on using Call of the Ancients. If you don't, I would neglect even putting points into this at the moment. I'll just stick with 1, 2, 3 and just leave that out. It's really taster's choice though. You can live with it fine. If not, you know, it's your call. Defense tab 1, 2, 3, 4 has always been the inverse direction because regen is king. Resist is what you need most as a Barb. Armor is more mitigation before life. Okay. So utility, resource cost reduction always number 1 because this is what makes the whole build work. Is you want to get enough fury to keep smashing. Area damage, the damage you get is insignificant, so I find resource cost reduction, of course, making the build work is more important than extra damage. Once the build foundation is made, then you get the area damage, and then you get the life on hit because gold finds useless. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is the gist of this build, so thank you guys for watching. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me a line. I'm gonna say, like, this is the pinnacle of this build. Hammer the Ancients, there's no supporting legendaries really outside of the fire % damage to bring the damage up. And as a melee skill with a very small AoE, it's appalling how little damage that this guy is doing. Right now you could have like Crusaders that are throwing out like, you know, mid to like long distance skills that are trumping this. You have cluster arrow DHs that would trump this. You have so many skills that are just like even firebomb for witch doctors, which isn't a skill that most witch doctors are built around, would trump this, because that's up to like 880% damage or something like that. So I honestly wholeheartedly think Hammer the Ancients really need a buff, because I don't want every single Barb to have the funnel in the EQ set to be effective. I want a standalone Hammer the Ancients build to be effective, and I have collected gear to fully support this skill. My entire skill bar fully supporting the skill, and the skill is still lackluster when you're talking about T6. So this is about as pinnacle as you're going to get with this build. There's not many more updates that I can do about this build. This is not a gearing guide or build guide because it does really need specific gear to work. What I like these videos to be named more so is really like a direction for somebody that might want to do something like this, and if they want to spend the time to get to this level, you see where the pinnacle is. But in the end, I mean, you're still, like I said, your best bet right now is the EQ set. Mine have really terrible rolls on them, so I personally am not a fan of using this right now. So right now, EQ set with hammers, with LUT socks is literally the end game gearing set. And if you're looking to farm T6, that's what you need to go into. That's the only build that works. Some people will say, like, say maybe Boulder Toss will work. I say yes or no. It really depends on what speed is to you. I'm pretty sure Boulder Toss Barb can easily go and farm T6 quicker than even this. But EQ is just so much more accessible, so much more easier to play, and everything about it is just so much easier. So thank you for listening to my ramble, guys. I appreciate everybody that watches these videos. As I am done with this Barb, I might start maybe a Crusader and do other content, but I still really want the Barb to work out. So maybe until the next patch where more content or more legendaries or more things are involved, I'm gonna, like I said, this is probably gonna be one of the few videos that you'll see unless I get something really drastically different. And hopefully I see you guys with maybe new content with Crusader or something like that, because I have a lot of alt gear now. So take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.